This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the NBA Team Podcast. I am back here with Adam Murray. Adam did a wonderful job holding the fort for us with some solo acts to catch up with us on all those intricacies of the trade deadline, which just passed on Thursday. We're going to clean up here. Let me ask you this, Adam, as I already introduced you. Did you feel like the trade deadline was eventful? Yes, there were names, big names with big contracts, but there was also that proceed with caution mentality because of the second tax, which prevented bigger deals.
Well, you did listen to my shows, because that's what I mentioned, how the NBA has a problem.
I listen to your shows. I love how you have to apologize that it's just you. I feel like I always have to apologize because I'm the one talking on the shows.
Nobody wants to listen.
And the trade deadline episode is always like the rambling kind. Like it's fresh. Like, oh, wow, this guy went to this team. Even if it's a small NBA sicko type of move, there's always those moves where you're just like, ooh, like that's kind of interesting. And the things that we'll talk about them, but the things I noticed is that there were a handful of teams that were just very, very active, like Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte. Like they took up almost all of the oxygen in terms of the move making, while some like the Miami you had mentioned, the Knicks, obviously, like someone made basically no moves.
I like how you ask me a question and then just go
and then
right
I just answer my own question. Yeah,
it wasn't even answering the question. I think I said this in episode 2. The NBA has a big problem. The Celtics went from a $500 cap and penalties team to $160. You shouldn't be having a $300 million variance of this and then forced to break up your franchise.
I think we
because
talked about that too when one of the Cleveland moves happened involving, I believe, DeAndre Hunter, which was one of the first deals that happened before the deadline. We talked about how, well, if you look at the numbers, they lose about $7 million in salary, but they avoid paying like $60 million. So,
and that's not good. And then you had, like you said, who were the big teams? One of them was Chicago, who said, we're going to go into tank mode. So
I
now
have a lot on them.
more teams are going into tank mode. And then you have Oklahoma City. You're looking at them and you going, oh, man, in the old NBA, but 5 years ago, you can see this team go for 10 years. Now we know there's a 3-year window. We saw with Cleveland, because they're in the double tax, if they didn't win, they would have had to split up Garland.
They were stuck. They had already decided to go into the tax before the season began because they were so good last year, despite the second round flameout. And then what do? They get a guy who is renowned for pushing through in the playoffs, James Harden. All joking aside, Harden, I mean, he's still a really good player. He's still a really productive player when he was in with the Clippers. I don't think age is an issue either for Harden because he can still run point as long as Cleveland's willing to slow down their pace a little bit because they're one of the faster paces in the league. My issue is like, how can you trade off possessions with Mitchell and Harden? They both love to have the ball. That's the part I just don't get. And then in the playoffs, he quits. He doesn't give his best effort in the playoffs. And when things get rough, he kind of folds.
So what are they supposed to do? Continue to be cursed and then just...
I understand that. They were damned if they did and they damned if they don't. You said that on the solo show. I know that.
So going back to your original question of the luxury tax and the first apron and second apron, you had teams like Philly going, you know what? We know we're not championship, so I need to jettison a very good player because, well, I want to be cheap because I know I'm not in the top 3 teams. You had Toronto ducking the tax, New Orleans obviously ducking the tax.
They got Chris Paul, but everybody knows they're going to cut him.
But that was
I don't know where. Let me just get this as a sidebar. Where do you think he's going to go? Talk about Chris Paul in his final season, probably. I think he's going to go to New Orleans, and he's just going to go full circle.
No, Houston can use a point guard. I don't know if they have a roster spot available. I don't think they do.
They'd have to cut a
Because,
two-way guy, you know.
um,
Atlanta, they just had to cut the
no,
Folly
because
Dante.
if he's gonna sign, why not go for a playoff team? Atlanta also shedding salary and rebuilding,
Hmm.
and I'll get into that when you get into all your grades. But
Yeah,
there's only a finite amount of places he can go if he wants to go deep into the playoffs. Because
yeah.
if him, what's the point of going? Well, I'm just going to go to any random team just to play, knowing this will be my last year, so I'm just going to go out with a whimper.
Yeah. And you were talking about how teams were shedding the tax. The Clippers, who were part of that Paul deal, of course, like they were one of the teams. They were involved in a very big deal, a very intriguing deal. But at the end of the day, they took less money on, so they were ducking the tax.
They also had a age problem, which they knew, and essentially flipping Harden for Garland and Mathurin, who I said was sort of James Harden light.
Matherin's an RFA, so that's interesting. But they had to. Here's the thing. Here was the one interesting thing about the Garland Harden deals: straight swap, other than 1 second round pick. The the salary number for this coming season and the following is exactly the same for both players. The big difference is Harden can opt out if he wants for this offseason. Garland can't, but he also has another year after that. So basically,
Yeah,
the Clippers took on more money, but they
they
get the
took on maybe
picks.
they get younger.
Hmm.
Which was a huge problem of them being old and one person get injured as nobody left. So the Clippers know, okay, we're not going championship mode. Milwaukee's not champion. So you have all these teams who are just going to, well, let's just shed all the salary we can. Let's just try to get all the picks we can. And then you have the Wizards, like, oh yeah, we got 2 stars. We're not going to play either. We're both shutting them down. So we're still going to be bad.
You know, when
The
it comes to Washington, I can understand the mentality. Okay, we have toiled ever since we traded Bradley Beal. Even when we had Beal, we were bad. Like maybe the stars will align. Our draft picks that we've been stocking up will start to hit, and we'll have 2 stars. I feel like they're in a similar situation to what the situation the Pelicans are in now, where they do have good like first round picks that they cultivated, but they also have albatross contracts that are that will be more toxic by the year, and it'll be harder and harder to trade them to the point that nobody wants to make deals with you because you want to attach AD or trade of the deals,
Well, they're just buying low. So there's nothing wrong with
or
that.
you just try to win. I
And
mean, that's another great thing they can do.
we had said outside of a few salary dump contracts, everybody was still on their rookie deals. So there was no, I don't want to say adults in the room, but you need
Mhm.
somebody who can,
I
you need a
really
star
think
or two.
I do think AD and Trey can work. I do think it can work. When they're on the court together, it can work. The Trey's an assistant points guy. Davis doesn't have to score all the time. He can be a rebounds block, a stocks guy. So I think that is a combination that can work. Obviously, Trey doesn't play defense, and AD would be the one who picks up the slack. But you also got Kaishan George. You didn't trade Trey Johnson. There was a Johnson that got traded. It was AJ Johnson. And I don't know if they got any ancillary guys from other deals in that involving. I think that was real. I think the only guys they really ended up with at the end were Trey, AD, D'Angelo Russell, and Jaden Hardy. Hardy could bust the lineup in there, like stay there. I don't think
Probably
Russell's
not.
I think Russell's probably going to get cut. Dante Exum was already cut.
But with Jaden Hardy, they have so many picks of their own. So
And
you keep
guards.
him.
Yeah.
What does that mean for Will? I can't even think of his name right now.
Or Will Riley.
Will Riley,
He's
yes.
been leading the team in scoring since the trade because
So you got
AD
Will
already shut
Riley,
himself down.
you got Johnson there, you got Koulibaly.
Mm-hmm.
So where is he
Someone's getting
going
moved between those three.
so you got
Yeah.
the 3 guys that you brought in versus this guy of, well, let's see if he could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not really
Well,
encouraging.
let
So
we could start our grades here, but let me just ask this: when you look at some of these teams, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, are there some teams here where you're thinking to yourself, even Memphis to a degree, are there teams where you're thinking to yourself, they're watching the college kids and they see the one and doners, meaning AJ DeBansa, Darren Peterson, who've been shining, and they're thinking to themselves, you know what? Maybe we got to tank now. Maybe we need to try to at least get a bite at the apple. We don't have to have the worst record and tank hard because the league will catch on to us, but we need to have one of the 3 or 4 worst records in the league to get a chance at one of these guys.
Okay, it's a two-part question, so two-part answer. Number one, no, because allegedly the next 2 freshman classes of the NCAA are terrible. Like this one is off the charts, one of a kind.
I feel like it's a 2-horse race. Caleb Wilson's good. Kingston Fleming's is good. Mikel Brown is good, but it's really those 2 from the Big 12 that I talked about that I think are the ones that the NBA teams really, really want.
But after this year, they're 2-week classes, so the tanking is a multi-year process, and the next 2 years do not have good vibes following.
Yeah, but I'm talking
year.
about short-term tanks. I'm talking about just for the rest of the season.
That how many teams can you say are going to do that?
Utah. They just literally gave away picks, which they had plenty of, to be fair.
Yeah,
to get a guy
low.
that basically plays the exact same way as Lauri Markkanen. High points, low rebounds despite being 6'11", and they never play defense. They just want to shoot threes. Why do you get the same player?
Utah had all those picks, and their first go-around hasn't worked, so now they're part 2 of their rebuild again. And they bought low on. What do you mean?
I didn't understand the Jackson deal. Like, I didn't understand. Like, Jackson is almost a clone of Markkanen. The only difference is Jackson takes more threes than Markkanen. Markkanen gets to the line more. But I feel like they're the same player.
No,
the same type of player.
I don't think they're the same player. And Markkanen will go back to being the 3. Jackson will be the 4, and you have Kessler at the 5. But they had to do something because their plethora of picks haven't cashed in yet. So, number one, tanking doesn't work the long term because, well, okay, the draft is weak. Though the 1 year, let's dive in and blatantly be bad like Dallas to get back in the lottery and get the Cooper Flag pick. That's just a one-time thing. But there are, and also with tanking, you have so many blatantly bad teams. They're just basically going, well, you can't punish all of us if we're all doing it.
Hey, we might slip through the cracks and get this number 1 pick. Right.
So you have Utah, as you mentioned, who was completely overachieving.
Are they? I don't know. I feel like this is a really bad team. You mentioned how you feel like they're buying in. I feel like they are like doubling down on the tank.
But wasn't their win-loss like 18 and we're like, oh no, they're not going to be close to 18?
Yeah, I think that was because Markkanen.
So there we go.
Well.
They already have 16 wins. They're overachieving from where they should have, where everyone expected them to be. But where they are, with 16 wins, you already have 5 teams beneath them. Mm-hmm. So as bad as they are, you have Indiana, you have Washington, you have Sacramento and New Orleans. The first 2 being we are in blatant tank mode. The second 2 in
Sacramento's awful. I've given up on trying to like figure out the logic of their choice. We talked about them a lot on the last show on when we were together about the Schroeder deal and how it didn't seem to make a lot of sense. And so that is a tanktastic team. That's all I'm trying to say.
You already have those 5 teams beneath them, and you're adding Milwaukee, who really added nobody, so they're not going in.
Yeah, but Giannis, and we talked about this. Giannis, there was no way he could get moved to the destination.
And then you have Chicago, Dallas, and Memphis, who are all now part of the tank club.
Yeah, and it's also coincidental because the Bulls, and I want to give a grade to the Bulls because they made the most moves. Like I want to kind of really like.
But that's every team out of the play-in game.
But what I'm trying to say is that at the same time, the Hornets are on one of their longest winning streaks in franchise history, and they now are sneaking into the play-in scenario. I'm not saying the Hornets are a juggernaut. I'm saying, Adam, that they're actually like knocking on the door. So now the Bulls and the Bucks can probably just punt if they want to.
The Bulls finally realized there is nothing we could do.
What I do like about
they
what
so
Chicago
low on everybody.
what I do like about what Chicago did is that they decided, okay, we've been too static for too long. We got to make changes. What I didn't like is that they basically traded only exclusive to guards. Like, you can get something other than a guard. Like, you could have traded Jalen Smith for a big man. You could have gotten first round picks, which
They
they
could
got
not have
out
gotten
of the
first round
Vucevic.
picks. They could
They
not
got
have
one. They
gotten.
got a slight one out of the Vucevic deal. But like, did you have to take Simons and Sexton? They're both like surplus guards off the bench. What are
It
you gonna
was
do?
like you
Take them
listened to
both
my
off the bench?
shows. What makes it funny is they traded for all guards. And then you had Brooklyn last year who only drafted guards. So
And they didn't trade any of them, or they didn't move
yeah,
any of
they
them.
kept 4 of their 5 picks were all guards.
Yeah,
So
Brooklyn not making moves was interesting. They were kind
It-
of in the buyout market, basically.
Chicago was a weird, we can't keep doing this. We are terrible. We tried to sell high to everybody. Nobody wanted it. So we had to literally get nothing for almost anybody.
Yeah, they're going to be forced. I know it doesn't matter for fans of Chicago, unless for fans of Chicago or diehards, but they're kind of forced this year for the remainder of the season to play small with Modest Buzelis, who's a good shot blocker, by the way, at the 5.
I mentioned at the end of the second one, they have an intriguing lineup of Ivy and Buzelis and Simons.
I don't think they have intentions to keep Ivy. I think they're just going to let him go as an RFA, unless he
I
just
don't
as a
know.
tender.
With him playing with Giddey, it might work because Giddey, who has the size and offensive limitations, Ivy might be able to make up for it with his undersizedness and
I think
playmaking
I
abilities.
think the linchpin was the fact that they wanted to move Patrick Williams first, but nobody wants the deal, obviously. And they said, okay, what's your next best option? Well, we have all these guards, and we are a little stuck. Like, we have a bit of a log jam at the guard
But their
spot.
guards
Kobe
are
White.
expiring, like
Yeah.
Sexton and Simons, and I mean, Ivy will be back because I don't see anybody ponying up 25 million for him
No.
to pry him away. So it'd
And
be better.
Giddey actually can play the 3. He is a point guard, but he can play the 3.
Like I said, it'll be interesting. Billy Donovan says he'll be there, but who knows if that's
Charlotte, they were the ones who swapped with Chicago to get Kobe White. Like I think I said at the end of the last episode we were together that maybe they're short-term buyers. I don't want to say they were short-term buyers, but they did make the move to get Kobe and they gave up Sexton, who I thought was hopeful for them. And then they pick up Malachi Branham and Xavier Tillman off the scrap heap. So they do like try to help themselves out in terms of rebounding, guard depth, just in case they have injuries to LaMelo Ball, which is always happens. And Concanipple is a rookie. He's going to hit a rookie wall eventually as they're trying to get into the play-in. So he's been fantastic. He was rookie of the month again in the East. Are we at a situation, Adam, where it is an absolute no-brainer that the rookie of the year vote's going to be Cooper Flag 1, Concanipple 2?
Well, yeah. Who else is there going to be?
Edgecombe. Edgecombe's been great, but it's Cooper. Cooper's been great. In Dallas,
he's a solid third, and anything below that is whomever is left.
Queen.
So,
but the Dallas is another team that made the big moves involving Anthony Davis. I think the destination was a surprise for Anthony Davis going to Washington. I kind of feel bad for AD. Do you?
What, the fact that he's reported not
Washington.
wanting to go there and he's unhappy already?
Yeah, well, you know who I do feel the worst for, just because of karma, is Max Christie, because he's involved in the Luka trade originally. So he's always just going to have this, like, he's going to be this walking trivia question of like, oh, who else was in the deal? Oh yeah, Max Christie. Max Christie's playing well. He's trying. It's just, and they have injuries too, to boot in Dallas. So what do you do when you're an injured? You get Chris Middleton, who is a bag of bones. At least he's an expiring deal, but like, what's he going to provide for you?
They just wanted that chapter closed so bad. They took back absolutely nothing, and
they get 3 first-round picks at the end of it.
Not really.
With Christie.
The Golden State one, I think, is a fake one, reportedly.
Oh, like that could be.
It's so protected. It's not gonna convey.
Right. The thing is, though, also the pressure's on. Uh, you got the picks that you did get at the end of the day from the Luka trade with the 80 trade. They better hit. They had better hit. Like that's
Well,
all I
that's
can
how it
say.
always goes down. If you look at,
Yeah, but the pressure's on this one.
well, you look at any rebuild and any, we had mentioned Utah numerous times saying you had high picks like Cody Williams, Detroit, back with Killian Hayes in 7th and Sekou Dabaya at 15th. And if you miss on a lottery pick, it really sets you back.
Mm-hmm.
And um, Detroit had to have tons of picks up at the top to finally bounce back, and that was really, you needed Duran and Cunningham to do it. And Ivy, as you see, they sold
Yeah, that was
early, and
when we were talking about the All-Star squads. That's a guy I completely forgot to mention, and he made it, Jalen Duran.
I
So
thought he was on there, or
I don't think I said his name, and
it was implied by everybody else. So
the
I
one that
figured you would have
shocked
had it.
me. I was fine with even the LeBron one pissed me off for a second, but I got over it, because he was a reserve. It was a last spot type of thing. The one that I didn't understand was Norman Powell. That was the one where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I would have just gone with Adebayo instead. But it's, to each their own. It's just an all-star game. But yeah, Detroit made a couple moves. They got Kevin Werder after dangling Jaden Ivey. They had the Mike Conley contract for 5 seconds, or someone did. That was a situation where Minnesota, like you had said at the beginning of the podcast too, just to escape the tax. We had some of these teams where it seemed like the most important person in the room was the bookkeeper, the capologist. That's what it felt like sometimes.
So after this break, we'll be back with Andrew's grades. Hello, Place to Be Nation. If you're still listening to this, you might be wondering, why do they keep referencing these two podcasts over the past week where Adam went over, I speak in the third person, went over all the trades. Well, most of, I missed a couple, but where was it? Well, with all the movies of the day and the songs of the day, it's impossible to be found on this feed anymore. So if you want little mini-sodes, if you want little extra things, just search us on the RSS feed. It's free. That's where most of the stuff is going to be posted. This is just the main show will be here. No extras, no bells and whistles. Think of it just sort of as the free Patreon tier feed versus the free basic feed with no frills. And that's unfortunately what PTBN has become to us. We've always been a square peg in a round hole. Am I right, Mr. Riche?
Yeah, I've been listening the whole time, just waiting for you to dig yourself a hole. Absolutely. We decided to finally branch out a little bit, and so that we can just try to, as Stringer Bell said, diversify our portfolio, and that's where we're at with it. And we got it now on the iHeart. We got it now on the iTunes, or do they still have iTunes? Is that what they call it now, or Apple?
Yeah, iTunes. But we're on all the apps, all the feeds. With the song of the day, the feed got pulled from a lot of RSS places. So
copyright stuff, yeah.
But anywho, please just search for NBA team.
Yeah,
and
we're
Andrew
there.
Riche.
We are the NBA team.
All right, back to the show. All right, we've been at this show very long intro. We need to get to your grades, which I've been teasing the entire time. So what do you have? Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Who are the movers? Who are the shakers? Who are the producers?
How long has this show been going on?
Too long.
And you still can't control the format?
You are the format, and nobody can control you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the other thing too is like this is a small aside. The one thing I find funny is that, like you had said very well about how the second apron, escaping the second apron, was like the big narrative of the trades deadline. Unfortunately, is that I am now seeing I saw it in baseball forever, but this is the first time ever I've seen the dreaded TBD in return, like the player to be named later, which is basically an excuse for teams to say, I don't care what you give me back. You can give me back a soda pop machine. Just please get me under the tax. And that's unfortunate because teams used to be more creative than that. It used to be able to find some kind of value out of a second round pick or some guy off of the bench or two. Now they just don't want anything back. And that's kind of unfortunate, I guess, Adam. I mean, it will change eventually when the CBA gets righted and they say, No, we're not going to do triple taxing on repeat taxpayers. Like, we're going to try to lessen the blow, but like, it's just
Well, that
sad.
was what it came down to. Was it was to prevent a Golden State Warriors of saying we don't care if we have a $500 million team, we'll buy
Mhm.
whoever we want. But
Didn't work out.
it punished the Celtics, it's punishing the Oklahoma City Thunder,
It's going to
it's
badly. Yeah.
punishing the
Cavs.
Orlando Magic, and even the Cavaliers, who you got Jared Allen, you got Mobley, and you drafted Garland, and then, well, we can't keep this all together because of this
This was
hellacious
funny.
taxes.
This was funny. So when I don't know the exact number, but this is just roundabout. At or past the luxury tax limit, which was about just under $188 million. I want to say 20 or maybe 16 of the 30 teams were right there or past it. How many do you think are right there now?
7, 8.
10. And that can go under easily if the Kings, Pacers, Celtics, and Clippers make some more cuts.
No, the Celtics are completely under. The trade for
so that makes 9 based off of what I have.
The John Tanji trade was, if you promote a two-way player to the full roster, their cap is less than just signing a regular player to a full year deal. So they were like, we need a two-way player.
The
I
rest
don't care
of
if he can
season
play.
contracts. We saw that with Dominic Barlow. We saw that with help me out here. There was another guy who overperformed as a two-way, Pat Spencer for the Warriors, guys like that.
They got promoted to a full thing, and Dennis Jenkins is out in Detroit, and he's like, yeah, I don't want a minimum.
He's in
deal.
that Austin Reeves bubble where he might get they're gonna have to use the arena's provision protection to keep him, as a restricted free agent. Like they might have to offer him a lot of money in the off season in order to avoid him getting.
Well, they need to offer him money now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he turned it down.
He's reached his limit, and they're like, "We'll give you a standard contract." He's like, "I don't want a standard contract. I've outperformed it." So now he has to play in the G League for the rest of the year unless they want to give him money. But anywho,
all right. So
winners,
like
losers.
I said, let's get to our format, and just to go old school, like Frank from the beginning, Adam, we're gonna start with the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta. Here's the thing. I actually give them a B+ because they got out of the Trae Young contract. Here's what I don't like: they can't shoot. Like, you trade away Vit Krejci and Luke Kennard, your two best three-point shooters, and you basically get athletes. And that's fine. But in the short term, are you a good shooting team? I don't think so.
Atlanta, I give a big boomer bust. So in the pass-fail category, I would say pass because they realized they tried going in by getting Porzingis to go Trae Young, and they realized it wasn't going to work. Okay, you ship out Trae Young for cheap. You ship out Porzingis for weird pieces.
I think Porzingis, to be very honest with you, Adam, I think Porzingis is on the cusp of retirement.
It's just on the cusp of always being injured. But you bring in Kuminga, which is intriguing. What does that mean for Rizacier, who is now out of the rotation completely? Because where is he going to go in between Daniels?
Unless Kuminga's not going to play at all.
Johnson, Kuminga, and Okongwu. There's not a starting spot for him, so he's just going to be a six-man guy, which isn't good for your development. So I'm going to give them a cautious... The Vit Krejci, we need to clear up cap space for him and give 2 picks to... Or no, they got 2 picks. We need to clear out Vit Krejci to open a roster spot doesn't make any sense. But
yeah,
Atlanta,
I just didn't like the fact that they traded their 2 best shooters. I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, well, Atlanta's going to tank mode, and that's just not good basketball. So they win as they realize they couldn't keep the Trae Young thing. So they get an A for finally getting out of Trae Young and realizing he's not the answer, but sort of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I like Landale played well in Memphis. He'll provide for Atlanta in the short term. And I think he's got a team option where if they want to keep him, they can. If they don't have to, they don't have to. The Celtics, I would probably give a B because you lose good bench help. And I know Minot wasn't playing as much anymore now that Jordan Walsh has developed, but he was helping with rebounding. Simons was a good bench guard. Now you bring in Vucevic to help with the rebounding, which was their biggest weakness. So I give them a B because they did improve the team, but I think they're going to miss Simons.
Absolute win for them. They
Mhm.
shed $350 million in cap, as I had mentioned. They got in size, which I've yelled at that they needed for years. Having Simons as a volume shooter is redundant with all the shooters they have,
Also,
so he was
they're now
expendable.
acclimated to, you know, superstar Jalen Brown. He was the player of the month in the Eastern Conference, I believe, in the month of January. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Luca
Chris
was
Boucher, who I thought was going to, a lot of people thought would have a bigger role here. Losing him and
yeah.
Tillman
Tillman
in
was
my
on the
not
title team. Yeah.
the end of the bench, and promoting Amari Williams is just a lateral move as they didn't do anything. So
And that's a C. That you cut Cam Thomas. Clearly, there was a bad relationship there between either him and Jordy or him and the ownership, and they did not have any intention to keep him after he signed the tender. You waive Haywood Highsmith, you pick up Minot, and you get Ochai Abaji from that Chris Paul stuff deal that I believe, unless I'm wrong. I think Abaji, he'll be all right. I think he'll stick around, but overall, I'd probably like him.
no, he won't stick around because they already have 4 point guards.
He can play the three. He's big enough to play
And
the three.
I give Brooklyn a big L because they were supposed to be one of the bigger movers. What are they doing with Claxton and Porter?
I think they're just holding out hope they get one of those two picks, top two
But
picks.
that's strange. Is your team was sort of built up. We got cap space. We got this, and they didn't really use it. They just sort of like admit this season is a complete loss. So Brooklyn L.
Charlotte C. I like Kobe White. He's in prove it mode. They were never gonna retain Conley. He's just dead cap. Branham's okay. Tillman can help with rebounding, so they don't have to play Musa Diabate too much. And then you lose Sexton. So I feel like it really just comes down to who do you like more between White and Sexton. I like White slightly more, but I wouldn't say that much more.
Kobe White has way more upside, and also they found he has a calf injury. I know, surprise, surprise. So
That's
it
news
went
to
from
me.
3 picks to 2 picks. So
Yeah.
they got to pick back, and it shows they're making little moves that they want to start improving. So that's a good sign.
Chicago, go ahead.
Just quickly, it also helps that they won in this last year's draft. So it's a lot easier saying we had Tijon Salon, who nowhere to be found, and then this past year they hit big time, and it's a lot easier to rebuild when you hit on your draft picks.
Chicago, we did talk a little bit about them. They made the most moves, getting Anthony Simons, Jaden Ivey, Colin Sexton, Rob Dillingham, Gershon Yabusele, Nick Richards as insurance at the five since they're so thin. Leonard Miller, and then they lose Vucevic, White, the Sunmu, who I didn't even mention. I thought he was actually playing well this year. Huerter, Dalen Terry, who went to New Orleans and got cut immediately, and Julian Phillips. Man, that's a lot of moves. At the end of the day, I'd give them like a B minus. I would say that I appreciate the fact that they made changes. I just don't understand why they couldn't get more size out of it.
I give them a solid Q, as I am big question mark. Yes, they finally realized we need to rebuild. So, I mean, they're the last ones to finally realize that. And everyone they got were all expiring contracts. So the
Correct.
fact that they swapped,
except for Sexton, I believe. I think Sexton's got another year, I want to say.
but for the most part, they already had like 10 roster spots open, and you swap Hoarder and Vucevic for 2 guards who are also expiring. So you're really just swapping out parts and kind of giving them like a little tryout of, will these cheap people we're sort of looking at in free agency worth? Will a Nick Richards, will a Simons, if we bring them back, let's get them in our system and see if they're worth a pick. So there's nothing wrong with sort of an extended training camp. So for that, I give them
I like the ambition.
win.
I like the ambition. But I don't know if they got all of the.
I don't know if they have vision, but they picked a direction.
Yeah, and I have to apologize. Sexton is expiring. The only one who has extra years is Rob Dillingham, who was a first-round pick originally in Minnesota.
He's on a rookie deal, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So Cleveland, we talked about him a lot. They get Harden, Schroeder, Keon Ellis. They're already in the roster. I saw him play the Kings the other night. They lose Garland. They lose DeAndre Hunter. They lose Lonzo Ball, who wound up being a cap casualty by Utah. I would say they got slightly better, even though I liked what Hunter gave them. Garland, we talked ad nauseum about how he had chemistry issues with Mitchell, but there's a really high potential of toxicity and chemistry issues between Harden and Mitchell. So it's almost a wash. I like Harden more than Garland, but in the playoffs, I don't think it makes a difference.
And that's what it'll come down to. If they made this move and it pays off, it was the smartest move. If it fails, they have to blow up the team
It's a
anyways
boomer
because of
bust
the
deal,
second
like you
tax.
said. Yes.
But with having Harden a year less, and if he opts out, you now could get back under the tax line really quick. As opposed to if you had Garland, well, we need to take that. We need to take back big contracts. This is sort of a boomer bust exit ramp strategy. So if and when, as many claim, when it fails, they have a mission. Also, where's Harden going to go now? He's burnt so many bridges.
I keep talking about the player option. I would have to think he's gonna. He wants to opt out of it, but it's $42 million. There is a good chance he'll just go in.
Yeah, he'll go because there's nobody who's going to offer him.
And if there's anybody who knows how to demand trades when they opt into deals, it's James Harden.
The same thing as, we'll get to them later. But there's a couple other players who aren't going to opt out because their value isn't there. They're not going to get any deal close to that.
Right. Detroit, you lose Ivy, who was kind of out of the lineup because they really were happy with that rotation they have going on with Jenkins and Duncan Robinson, who starts, and Ron Holland the second. And so they get Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter can pass. So I think they can actually use him as a backup point guard to relieve Cade Cunningham. Cade has been awesome, but he plays a lot of minutes at him. He needs a break. I would give that like a B-.
I don't know. As I had said in the solo episode, you signed Karis LeVert to be that spot.
He's been hurt.
And Duncan Robinson, and you get a Huerter who is the Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert position.
Mm-hmm.
So would it have helped in knowing Dennis Jenkins is gone? I don't know. There's not, if you're not going to go let's replace Tobias Harris and let's not mess with chemistry too much. Moving on from Ivy isn't a terrible thing. It's just, I think there was just sort of a lateral move for them.
Do you think his experience having played on playoff teams with Sacramento and Atlanta helped? And that was one of the reasons.
Oh, that championship pedigree of Sacramento and Atlanta.
Yeah, the red velvet mentality. Okay. It's real. Pacers and A. You get Ivica Zubac, who not only is the insurance so that Pascal Siakam can get a break, he's a huge upgrade over Isaiah Jackson, and probably safe to say Jarace Walker, who he's been playing more, but I don't know if they're like super big believers in him. Matherin was helpful, but they get so much scoring out of guys like I'm trying to think of some of the other names that have been really helpful. Aaron Nesmith, McConnell, who's been injured a lot this year. Halliburton's going to come back, and they have those very weird protections involving the pick. So if they can get in that range where they get a top pick, you got a very loaded team next year. So I'd give them an A.
Either an A or an F.
Okay.
Very high stakes. What are they doing trading for Zubac and going, we're only going to protect top 4? And then it was the Clippers.
They know they're going to get a top 4 pick. That's what it is.
It was the Clippers saying, we want the protection also 10th to 30th. So
right. It's a hedging of bets. It's a hedging of bets. But
I think it's a 52% they keep it, 48% they lose it. And if it falls in 5th, you're giving up a top 5 pick for Zubac. That's not a deal I think anyone would want to make other than New Orleans. And
giving up the picks, but at the end, but remember, the most important thing is that you know what, you might need to help me out. I don't think they gave up the pick that was supposed to go to New Orleans, but I could be wrong about that for the Indiana Pacers. In that
pick is already flipped back, I believe.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is they didn't give that up in the Zubac deal is what I'm trying to say.
I don't even think they have it. I think it was given back in the Siakam trade.
Okay. But at the end of the day, they didn't give up huge first round picks. They just gave up.
Yeah, they did. They gave up potentially a top 5 pick this year. And all they had to do is just pay Miles Turner.
Well, we can close the book on that, pun intended. It's over. Like, they already did it. It's too late. All you can do is regret it.
I don't know if
here.
A team who's taking a year off why you want to make such a leap like that. It's very and with Matherin, we know with the tax they weren't going to pay him anyways. So
right, he was an RFA, and he's going to get big money. He's gonna get big money. He's in Los Angeles. We'll see what happens. Miami made no moves. I wish they had, but I think it's just the same situation that they are always in. They like their young guys. They
No,
didn't
the
hear a deal that they liked.
straight up losers.
I mean, I understand they could have gotten better. I get it. I
their
understand
hot
that.
start they went with has now fizzled. The league has sort of figured him out, and we were in the Giannis sweepstakes. Well, maybe we'll trade for Kuminga, and then it's just, well, we did nothing. Well, your roster's really not good to be doing anything, and it shows. So standing pat is not the. I mean, if they're content just being in the play-in game and probably being an early exit, then so be it.
Yep. Like I said, it's going to be continued. I mean, a lot of people were looking to see if Hero would get moved. It didn't happen. The Bucks, to be honest, I know they had some deals, like Cole Anthony got moved and Amir Coffey got moved. They pick up the Usman Dane contract, which was just a give up of a first rounder by Oklahoma City. I don't even know if he's going to be on the team going forward. The thing is, I feel like they won because they didn't have to trade Giannis. They still have Giannis, so I think they won.
We had said with this season it was better off if they held off until the off season when the picks come in and teams have more to offer and more cap space, as opposed to now where you only had a handful of teams who could possibly do something. It's just they were an L, as if your only pickup is Ousmane Dang.
Bad.
I don't know what your vision is, unless
There's also rumors that Kevin Porter Jr. might be done for the season, so that might be bad.
So I put them in the L bracket, but they have bigger issues of figuring out how do we navigate on.
The Knicks, I would give an A- because they needed backup help at guard in the playoffs, a little more depth. Jose Alvarado provides that. Yabusele was a bust of a mid-level exception, and they flipped it for Alvarado, so it's a good deal in my opinion.
Well, it wasn't Yabusele's fault that the New York offered him tons of money and he took it, and then you had the coach who's like, I'm not going to play him at all.
Alvarado has played in the playoffs before. He's just one of these guys that just he's not perfect. Defensively he's a bad one-on-one defender, but he gets a lot of steals, and
he's a gambling defender, not a lockdown.
He can make threes. He's physical. He will fight.
He's an energy guy off the bench, which they desperately needed. So yeah, big win for them. But just they got there from that bad signing to begin with, so they dug themselves out of the hole.
Orlando was in a tough spot. There was no way they could add on anybody with the fact they were entering the tax. So all they could do was dump Tyus Jones, who was a disappointment. So an F by default.
So the few picks they had left, they had to now jettison in order to give up Tyus. Like I said, this is their team that looks like they have to. If they underachieve in the playoffs, Mosley is most likely gone. And then next year, when the new coach comes in and they underachieve again, you're going to have to blow up this team. Everybody has turned on Paolo.
I did like my weekly reminder. There are reports that Jamal Mosley and Paolo Banchero are not seeing eye to eye. You don't say. You know what shows me that? The product on the court.
I think everyone expected Banchero to take a leap that he hasn't done. And it's very frustrating to watch somebody who's like, I know it's there. Why isn't he doing it?
Yeah.
And with given that huge contract to Jalen Suggs, which is quickly an albatross, and then you have Franz Wagner.
Franz has been out with the ankle again. Like, it's just been tough. That was really ugly
injuries are a huge thing,
and that was an especially bad one.
They built themselves to make this run, and it's just failed. And it's sad that they have to jettison pieces because of the tax.
I think the big question going forward for Orlando is just, can they get out of the play-in purgatory? Philadelphia, who I'm going to talk about next. They're above them by about 2 or 3 games, so it's going to be tough. Philadelphia didn't make any moves. They were sort of in that same situation, Adam, like you had said, where they couldn't make moves. They just had to shed. They get a first rounder of some sort out of Jared McCain. They cut or they got rid of Eric Gordon, who got cut later. I feel like Nick Nurse is a guy who doubles down on the players that he values. And with Paul George's drug suspension, they're just going to tighten the screws. They're just going to play Barlow a lot. They're going to play Oubre a lot. They're going to play Maxey and Etchcom a lot. I feel like I would give them like a C, because they didn't make any additions, but they're comfortable with the roster that they have.
I put them as one of the bigger losers, as You had McCain, who before he got injured at a small sampling, he was the leading
He
rookie
played
of the
well.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Before he went out, he was the rookie of the year. And then Nick Nurse chose Quentin Grimes over him. And
Yeah, and
with
Grimes
Edgecombe
is
there,
injured unless that's been recently updated, but I think
but
he's
with,
had an
with
ankle injury.
Edgecombe there was no space for him. And only getting a 23rd, 25th pick for him,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of teams like going, that was a price for a guy who's on his rookie contract. Like we could have beat that easily.
Yeah.
And all of that because your owner is cheap and doesn't want to pay the tax. And I like the response of, well, I paid the tax before when we were a playoff push and we're not a playoff push. So you're now admitting you're just going to tank. And this isn't even tanking. This is, we know we're not good enough. So we're fine
It's
being the 6th
planking.
seed.
It's what I call planking. When you're a playoff team, but you don't want to get better.
And
That's what
we're
I call that.
content being the 6th seed and going out in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not good basketball, admitting we're not going to play good basketball because of the taxes. And it's a problem. Next.
Yeah, and they're right under the limit, or 15 million under the limit for the following season. So it's like, okay, well, we'd have some pocket of room to make a move and sign a guy, but not that much. Toronto, they lose Abaji. They flip for Chris Paul, who's going to get bought out. They add Trace Jackson Davis. You know what? I would just give him a C because Trace Jackson Davis actually might be able to give him a little bit of size help. Jakob Poeltl's been hurt a lot. They couldn't move Poeltl's contract. There were rumors everywhere. They were trying to get Domantas Sabonis, and it didn't happen. But I feel like this is a good team anyways when they're healthy. So they just stood pat, basically.
Well, they had big aspirations, and it was also
It was either get to Sabonis and really go for it, or just stay, and they stayed.
Well, that was the issue of everyone saw it coming of, you guys are barely above the tax line. We know there's going to be no way you're going to be over it, so we know there's going to be a shedding of salary. Who's left to shed? We know it's Abaji. They did what they needed to do. The fact they got Trace Jackson Davis for relatively nothing is good because they needed size. Yeah. Having a backup big man, I mean, I expect them, if they have a roster spot in the buyout market, I could see him looking at Chris Boucher again.
Yeah,
he was quite productive up there.
Yeah, he was loved. I remember they did a tribute video for him when he went there because they liked him a lot.
But they're just sort of a disappointing, like Philly. Like, yeah, they're not gonna pay. They're not gonna do anything. So
Washington, we talked a lot about. I'll just say in general, I'll give them a B because they got better. B for better, you see. If Young and Davis just are hurt all the time, or it's just a bad fit, then you're in a situation where you have albatross contracts that you can't move. But you flipped it for CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert, Middleton, Marvin Bagley, AJ Johnson, and Branham. That's not terrible.
I believe I said all I need to on the Wizards. You have to do something. Are they going back to the Beal wall? We're fine. Well, they need to do something. You can't just have 20 first round picks all on your roster, which is they were close to doing. So you have to put something
out in the West. Out in the West. So we go to the Western Conference for the big D. Dallas, I give a D because of the fact that you didn't really get much out of it in the short term, and in the long term, you got a few good draft picks, but at the end of the day, you got to wait to see what it's going to result in. I hate to do this, but I still got to attach this to last year's what the F deal of what did you really get out of this? And at the end of the day, you didn't get much out of it.
They got a max deal for next year.
Kyrie Irving is still probably on board. I don't think he's going to ask out. I think he's
been happy. He admits he's been happy, and he admits being shuffled around.
He might not play this year.
There's no incentive for him to play. They're going tank mode too.
Denver,
since they saw how Cooper flag played, that he is the player as advertised.
Cooper gets better by the week. Every time I watch him, he's better.
Losers for Dallas, but it's not a rebuild because they were given the number 1 pick. Denver, as you said,
Denver, they were in the same situation as Orlando. They couldn't really make moves, so they just dumped Hunter Tyson's contract. They've had so many injuries. Jokic just got back, but they still are missing Gordon and Cam Johnson. They're playing well though. They had a bit of a losing streak. They just shook it off though. I feel like, I got to give them a D because they couldn't get better at the deadline. But at the end of the day, I think they know they are what they thought we were. Like what you see is what you get out of the Denver Nuggets, and it's a good team. Golden State, God. So they finally gave up on Kuminga. I bet the Warrior fans see this as an A because you get a player that might play that they
Nope,
like.
they don't.
And
They don't see
yes,
that.
they do, because they see two guys that weren't playing and Kuminga and Healed, and now you get a guy that Kerr likes. And if Kerr likes him, meaning Porzingis, and he's healthy, he's going to play him a lot and try to unlock some of those openings for 3-point shooters to get open. But
They see that, but
I think it's a bad deal.
All I see is they made a deal, and the fans see they made a deal, but it doesn't put them over the Jimmy Butler. His contract, you
I
lose
think
all
Kerr
your
even
shooting.
admitted that. I think Kerr said everybody knows without Butler we're worse.
You make that deal that nobody thinks they're going to be West contenders now.
Yeah, I would.
It was they need to make a big deal in order to be contenders, and this just sort of came in as admitting defeat.
I think they're back in the same scenario they were before they got Butler. Is that what can we do to make Steph Curry happy? And I hate to say that, but Curry is 36 years old, 35 years old. You might have to help me there, but he's in
37.
He's wow, but he's still elite. So you're in a situation where like he's gonna be hanging out with Kevin. He's gonna be hanging out with LeBron, his buddies from Paris Olympics, and in the All-Star game they're on the same squad, and they're like, hey, you still want to win, like I wonder if I wonder if Curry in the offseason might really think about it, like maybe I don't have to play my whole season, my whole career as a Warrior.
No, it's everyone knows he has a finite time left.
He's promoting a movie,
and there's only so much you can do. And what they did this year, you've taken a year away from him.
Mm-hmm.
He is 37 years old. He is going to be 38 in 6 more weeks.
Still a great player, man. I think he's averaging
he's not going to be 41
game.
playing 40 minutes a game. And we saw how LeBron fell off this year.
And also LeBron. I mean, we'll talk about that when we get to Lakers. Houston Rockets made no moves. They couldn't. They're a really good team. I mean, no brainer there. Okay. Clippers. If I had to say, I would say probably like a B, because you get out of the Harden contract. Ivica Zubac was not the most damaging contract, but you do get picks out of it. I just wonder what they're going to do with Mathurin's restricted free agency. If they sign him as a restricted free agent, I'm not as happy with this deal, but you get younger and you got a really good guard in Darius Garland.
Well, they weren't looking to trade Zubac. There was just the deal was too good for a team that had no picks and saying, we're going to give you 2.
And you get younger
picks.
Yep.
And you get younger.
Yep.
It buys you more time. So
Lakers, you get Luke Kennard in exchange for Gabe Vincent. That's a win. I would probably give that a B. But were you surprised that there was no LeBron fervor? Not just from outside teams, in terms of Rich Paul and LeBron trying to force the Lakers' hand.
Well, that was why Rich Paul had to announce that LeBron's going to stay.
I love how you have to announce I don't want to be traded.
No, that I don't think he's going to be. Yeah, because nobody.
There was another report that came out maybe a few days before that or a week before that, where basically it was like I think it wasn't even an announcement. It was I think it was Jake Fisher, who's an insider, who said that basically the Lakers and the LeBron's camp are both acknowledging the fact that he's not going to be a Laker next year, which gives the sense that he's probably going to come back next year. He's not going to retire, but we'll see.
Most likely. He's not going to be a Laker because the Lakers gave him $60
million. Why
million.
would you do all of this and then just retire? Clearly you want to leave the option open.
Well, you don't think that far ahead the same way by saying I'm going to opt in my $61 million deal. What do you mean my team isn't going to spend way into the second cap and
Reeves
spend
just
everything?
Back, but Reeves is back. So
the issue with LA was defense, and they did nothing to address it. So
did nothing to help. I mean, Luke Kennard can't play defense. He's a great shooter, but he cannot play defense. The Grizzlies, I would actually give an A. You get out of that really bad Jaren Jackson Jr. contract. Yes, you had to give up Vince Williams Jr. By the way, Adam, I want to just have a laugh about this. Who was the guy that argued with John Morant on that trip in Europe?
Was it Gigi Jackson?
It was Vince Williams Jr. who was traded.
Well, Vince Williams also has better.
I'm not trying to look. I'm joking around, okay? But I'm not trying to say Ja won the front office.
No, because they tried to get rid of Ja, but they were like,
there weren't any good deals. There weren't.
Deal
He
was
wanted
sort of
everybody. They probably wanted 2 firsts and a player, and everyone's like, nope, 1 first and a player. It's the same situation as his 2019 draft buddy, Zion Williamson. We can't move. I'm a Pelicans fan. The Pelicans couldn't move him because they wanted too much. Well, probably the Memphis Grizzlies asked for too much, but they
well, the
do
Grizzlies,
get rid of
like we said, it's very confusing that they fired their coach out of nowhere, essentially. Bring in the new coach who the players don't
and make
like.
John Morant happy, by the way.
You sign, which it didn't. You sign Jackson to a huge deal, which everyone said was an overpay.
The only good news about that is that was a renegotiation and extension, which is one of those rare ones where when you play 10 years with a team, or 8 years, I believe, you can go ahead and just get the new year tacked on instead of having it be a poison pill. Well, that helped out to move him to Utah, because if they had to have 5 more years of Jaren Jackson Jr., then that would have not happened. But because it's 4 more, it was able to be done.
But when you look at it, when you say our new cornerstones are Zach Edey, Cedric Coward, and Jalen Wells, can you name a roster?
You say that mockingly, but I'll say this. I think that combination of Coward and Walter Clayton Jr. can really work off the bench. That can be a helpful backcourt. I like Walter Clayton Jr. I think Utah gave up on him too early.
Well, Utah
they basically picked Isaiah Collier, and yes, I saw that he got 22 assists in a game. It's the Utah Jazz. Like, this team is trash. You know, that I don't.
But you had to pick one of the two, and they probably said we'll take one of the two, and
they picked Collier. They didn't, well, they also
go with the guy who's been there,
yeah,
in your system for much longer.
You get Kyle Anderson back, who is familiar with the Grizzlies, so maybe he can play. I don't think the Grizz are aiming for the play-in, to be honest with you.
Oh no, they're in tank mode, so
they already cut Niang, they already cut Eric Gordon. I like
end of an era.
Landale. I like Jock Landale. I don't understand why they cut him, or let him go, but they did. Minnesota, they finally gave up on Rob Dillingham. It had been rumored for a while that they were happy with the way Terrence Shannon was developing, but not Dillingham. They finally cut their ties. They get to Sumu, who has free agency coming up. I like it for the Wolves, who are a playoff team. I would probably give them. I would give them a B-.
The moves were all, in the end, getting Ayo Dosunmu for Dillingham, Ayo Dosunmu and Mike Conley for Dillingham and Mike Conley.
Yeah, because they originally, it was the TBD return. They were like, look, we just got to get rid of the Conley contract. Then they roped it into the other deal. So
it was he was dealed, and then Chicago moved him on to Charlotte, which allowed him to sign loophole back to Minnesota. But it seems like we're looking to make a big move to Sumo. Yes, great, bigger upgrade over Dillingham and Connolly.
Julian Phillips had a guaranteed contract, so he's not a two-way, so that's fine. He'll, I don't know much about Phillips, to be honest. When he was in Chicago, maybe he can help in the playoff. I look at him as a playoff roster. Like, if they're on a playoff roster, can they provide? Dosunmu absolutely can. I think he can help them out in the backcourt. Just give Ant just a little bit of relief. I feel like Ant he has to do freaking everything, like sometimes I feel like when he tries to press too much, talk about Edwards, they play worse. Like, they get on a losing streak. And then when he kind of can dial it back and relax and be more comfortable and give more shots to McDaniels and Reed and Randall, they're much better. So hopefully Dosunmu can give some relief. The Pelicans, an F. You lose Jose Alvarado just to have a cap casualty in Dalen Terry. Oh, man. I mean, I still dread that draft coming up where we don't have it because the Hawks have it. But
again, you have no secret that they're going to be out of the tax, and
I think priority number one in the summer is for between Williamson, Poole, and DeJounte. You gotta dump one of the deals. They gotta go.
I can't have 10 untouchable players on their team and a team that is 13 wins.
The Herb Jones contract is not a bad contract at all. Even the extra years are not that bad compared to like Jaren Jackson Jr. So, but they couldn't move it. I know there were teams that were sniffing around for Jones, but I guess it just wasn't a good enough deal. And the Thunder, you get some help in Jaren McCain. The rich getting richer, I guess you could call it, even though they gave up a draft pick for it.
They have so many. They were
Jang wasn't doing anything for him. It was just a bad pick.
Yeah, it was a bad pick. It was an L, and the fact that you were able to get out of him. And I
So
mean,
I
we
give it a
mentioned
C. I give it a C. I have
last
noticed.
year with Dylan, not Dylan Brooks, um, first round pick. They
Dylan
had
Jones.
Jennison, yeah,
Yeah.
Dylan Jones. They had to get sent him to Washington because,
Mhm.
well, we have too many people. So this
You'll
is what's
never believe this,
happening.
Adam. Sam Presti's not perfect. Like sometimes he makes picks that don't work out, but like 8 out of 10 times they do. But so McCain's a good pick up. Will he crack the roster? It depends on how well he plays defense for them. For Daniel, for the Suns, Nick Richards had been kind of like squeezed out of the lineup because of the fact that Mark Williams had played so well, and they get Cole Anthony and Amir Coffee. I don't know about Coffee, but I think Cole Anthony can play some for them.
Cole Anthony, they haven't said whether he's going to report or not. They might just
They
cut
like
him.
Jordan Goodwin, who's a guard.
But
So
for a
we'll see.
team that's overachieving, it's all just house money. They swapped expiring contracts for expiring contracts, so it's not like they made their team worse. So
Portland, I give a B minus, maybe a C plus, and the reason why is because Krejci might actually be able to help them get into the play-in. And I know that doesn't seem like a lofty goal, but Adam, the Blazers haven't been into the postseason since 2021, and
well,
all they had to swap was an injured Duop Reith. That's it.
when you had Dallas, and they had to give up a couple of second round picks. When you had Dallas and Memphis drop out, basically by default,
They put you in, yeah.
that's how it works.
I mean, can the Mavs make a run? Possibly. I doubt it. I think they're kind of also holding out to see if Scoot can be ready to play. That's tough to ask because he hasn't played a minute. But if he can play with the roster they already have and Sharp and Jeremy and Denny Avdia, who is an all-star, like I think they can. I think they could be. I would like to see him in the play-in just to get a feel of what they look like. The Kings, that you get DeAndre Hunter, a booming contract, but a good scorer. You finally give up on Keon Ellis and then sure. We talked about that on the previous show. I was not a big fan of it, and you weren't either. I would probably give it a C minus or a D. Did you have any additional thoughts on it?
Oh no, Sacramento continues to get an F as they don't know what they're doing. They're continuing
If
to
they'd have,
buy.
if they'd have just gone in on the Sabonis stuff, we would have had a lot more to talk about.
You keep, Levine Levine, you can't get rid of because of his contract. You have DeRozan. Neither of them on your own
They have
timeline.
tanktastic lineups already. I'm already
You
seeing
have
GMPs for Zach Levine and
the
Keegan Murray.
pride of the free agency. Schroeder, they jettison 4 months later. But then why was he the cornerstone of your thing? And you get Hunter, who, you weren't going to keep Keon Ellis. We all said that he was their only trade chip because there's nobody. They couldn't afford to keep him with that roster. But
yeah, well, Keegan Murray had a poison pill. There's no way nobody was going to take him.
In a team that needs to tear it down, they shouldn't be buying like they did.
Yeah, and then San Antonio didn't make moves. They probably could have. But
Jeremy Sohan wanted out, and
he was on the trade block. They just didn't hear an offer that they liked. They probably wanted a first. And it just wasn't gonna happen. But so they stood pat. They like their roster. Wemby is healthy again, and they're playing well. I just saw Steph Castle at a 40-point, 15 assist game, so he's starting to play better. And the Utah Jazz, we talked a lot already. I would give them an F because I just don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a good idea.
I like it because if they didn't do it, they still have no direction.
So we're in hard bipolarism mode here.
You can't keep tanking,
but you are tanking by having two guys on the same position.
But what's their vision? You're just still gonna be bad for 2-3 more years.
Get the Bansa or Peterson. That's the vision.
And
I will say this: Ace Bailey's playing more. He is playing a lot more. And I'm liking what I see out of him. I'm liking what I see out of Ace. Now, it's one of those things where he might have to take some more development versus Cooper and Khan. But he is starting to get a lot more minutes. Isaiah Collier is basically their starting point guard now.
It's funny. I thought me doing the heavy lifting during the week would make this a nice, short, quick episode. And here we are at an hour.
Don't we? Yeah. Don't we always make these? The trade deadline is always one of the funner shows. We always like to kind of.
All right. Any final trade thoughts from you?
Trade thoughts? No. I'm interested just to see the All-Star game back on NBC. I know it's kind of buried behind the Winter Olympics and the Super Bowl. I know that your neck of the woods have been busy because you're in the Boston area with the Super Bowl.
You're one of the few people who still care about the All-Star game. So
the All-Star game.
On you.
You don't even care about the Winter Olympics. You don't care about anything but the NBA. I try to be an all around fan. And the World Cup's coming up. We have qualifiers in March. We try to be all around here, okay? You know, we have to have time. We have to have more content to fill the gaps on our weeks. The trade deadline is one of those ones where it kind of speaks for itself. You don't even need to make up topics. It kind of that's why this episode this every year goes a little longer than the others. It wasn't. Let me ask you this: do you wish it was more eventful? Do you wish that Ja was moved? Do you wish that Giannis was moved?
It was eventful. You didn't. You
Trey Young
had
was moved. AD was moved. Yeah, there was a couple big
a
moves.
lot of superstars you wouldn't have thought like a year or two ago. Like, would you, if I said, Jackson and AD and Trey Young would all be on different teams and people were putting
James
in offers
Harden.
for Giannis and
Yep.
Harden would be traded, be like, no, that would never happen.
Mm-hmm. I
So it
feel like
was madness.
I do think that the summer is going to be very, very active because some of these that we will have had teams that have been in second apron hell with some of these contracts, and they are desperately going to move them. And because of the fact, like you said, the draft might not be as strong the next couple of years, they'll be willing to give up the picks. But we'll see.
All right. So for worldwide Andrew Riche, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.